Yeah, but I was calling you. I was calling you to find out what strategy you have to put together this election that you are putting together next week. What? Because you've been speaking about this for quite a while now, and everyone would expect that by now you should have your guidelines published and the contestants, the list of contestants published. I mean, the whole setup put out there for people to see that, yeah, this man is serious with what he is doing. Maybe we can renege and give him the benefit of the doubt. Nobody has seen anything.
When I wrote to you saying we should have, I don't want to be out there. I don't want to be playing off the differences that I may have, because I like all things, I've kept the channels open. I've continued to talk to everybody, and I've always thought that there was a possibility for all of us to unite around this idea. This is not as far as I'm concerned, this is not a Morris thing. This is about us changing the game. We have at least 3 people who are still living right now who were elected in a conclave, like our brother Julius has just been elected. Professor Anyangwe is alive. Ambassador Fosun is alive. Fongoji Dinka is alive. All these people are people whom are people elected at some point in a conclave, agreeing that this was the person who was going to unite all of us. And
were they actually elected or nominated? Because I don't remember an election being held for them. I think there was unanimous decision to nominate them to lead the struggle at their time.
No, in all cases, my belief is, and I was not at this third conclave, but I was at the second. The process is about name the person and clap the person to their position. That is the process that our people have generally used. But the essential thing that denies us credibility and legitimacy to some extent is the fact that, we reduce our people to the small group of 50, 60 leaders or representatives of groups that Mr. Bia is one to call extremists. It keeps, don't lock the door on here. Mr. Bia, that's the group that Mr. Bia calls extremists. And what he's telling the international community is that those leaders have no followers. The rest of the southern Cameroonians are not with them. And they go and meet in these conclaves, in these hotels, in Lagos and wherever, and they pretend that the people are with them. No, these are just a handful of people determined to destabilize my country. The reason we're using the election is not because we want to contest anybody. I'll be first to nominate Julius or anybody else, because I think that one of our leaders, supported by all of us, will take us somewhere, especially if they can turn around and say, this is the following that I have with my people. And that following is established through a process that's happening now. We can do through an electronic vote. And we can keep electronic data of how many hundreds of thousands of people, hopefully 1 million people, who elect that person. It will become impossible for Mr. Bia to go around and sell the stuff that he's selling, that it is a few extremes.
Don't you think if you had participated in the conclave that elected or nominated Julius, you would have brought these ideas, put them on the table, and expect that they deliberate upon it?
No, I was
putting away to make these suggestions.
I was at the conclave that held at the end of March, closing in the beginning of April. and we sold this idea, and everybody bought into it, which is why when we issued the communique at the beginning of April from the second conclave, we had all agreed, paragraph number 1, that we were going to elect the person in the month of May. And then once we left Lagos, some people decided unilaterally that they were going to change it and that they were going to start this process of transforming SCACOF into the government, which is one of the reasons why I resigned. I said, I don't want to be part of a government. We have agreed that we need to give legitimacy to our process. We, all of us Southern Cameroonians, are very convinced about where we want to go. Now we need to convince the international community. And the international community is not going to believe us if a few of us lock ourselves in a hotel room and speak on behalf of the rest of us. Because they are making it impossible for our people to demonstrate their support to this struggle. We have to devise the instrument by which we will convince the international community that our people are behind us. It cannot be through demonstrations.
The problem there is, you know as well as I do that our people cannot vote. The mechanism isn't in place. Even the one you said you haven't put it out there for people to really understand you and say, yes, this guy has something, let's try it. They haven't seen it.
Okay, I keep saying, and we've said that, including at the conclave, at the level of the leaders, we have said it in the press releases that we have put out. The system that we have is a system that can be stopped. It can be stopped notably if Mr. Biya takes off the internet, for instance. Okay?
Yeah.
Then it shuts down the system from happening. It will not shut it down from our people in the diaspora. They will still be able to vote because the internet will still be active. So there is a certain number of things to our process that we need to use to catch the colonizer with his pants down. Now, it's not because anything is secret about it. We have a nomination process going on now. We are saying anybody with a phone, anybody with an internet connection who is a Southern Cameroonian can vote. That is the system we have developed. And so, and we are giving a chance for early vote to come in. So and the reason we delayed all the nomination process, even taking into account the revised roadmap, was that we were hoping that at the conclave, they would agree some way of saying, okay, Morris, can you administer an election on behalf of the umbrella group? Or can you join a group of technicians that we may want to designate into an electoral commission so that we can jointly administer that election? And again, the reason is, let us not satisfy ourselves. We already know, and we are already totally convinced that we want independence. We need to satisfy the expectations of the international community and disprove Mr. Biya, telling them that we are a group of small extremists trying to destabilize this country. And that possibility of voting allows us to put in place a leader who will purely speak on our behalf. And I'm saying it's great that all of SCACOF and all of the main groups have agreed that Julius should be the candidate or should be that person. Now it is time for all of us to say, let's go out and vote for him, but let's do it massively. Let us show to the world that this whole group, this whole issue, this hunger for independence is something that is real and is something that is shared overwhelmingly by our people.
So if you want Southern Cameroonians to come out and let's say, assuming that Julius Tabe was nominated, let's now vote for him. He would be the oldest candidate standing, or what?
No, I'm saying all of SCACOF has said this is our person. Okay, all of this group said this is our person. So the whole thing now will be to galvanize people to go out and vote for the person that they believe to be leading this whole thing. So this whole thing should be. I was hoping that we could have, and that's why we delayed even launching even launching the platform. That is why we postponed a first time, because we kept hoping that at some point they will realize that all of us leaders, all of us who have these organizations that have the blessing to be representing our people at the conclave, that we cannot take the whole thing hostage. We cannot make ourselves the leaders, because someone may be in Kumba right now will emerge as our leader. We don't know. Why don't we give our people a chance to do that?
I thought that is a good idea. But the problem again goes back to the fact that the election system that you are promoting is flawed. Flawed in the sense that take Cameroon that you're talking about, for example. In Cameroon, people have like 3, 4 phone numbers. What if somebody would go and vote 10 times? How do you detect that fraud?
The first part to answer to that question is this: that there's no flawless election. There's no election in which a fraud is not a possibility. We are debating here in the United States about the influence of Russia over an election and how that influence may have changed significantly the outcome of the election. So there is no perfect system where there will be zero possibility of fraud. The issue about fraud is to determine whether fraud is to the extent that it will harm the outcome of the election.
But don't you see that in this case you will really have that? I mean, in the situation where you cannot control, you really cannot control who is voting and how many times they are voting. Don't you see that affecting the process in a huge way?
You know that even if we put down a paper ballot system, we know that we will still not have and will not still have the control of who is voting. Now, let me say, we weighed what kind of election we thought we should offer our people. And one election really offers a possibility for fraud to become beneficial to fraudsters. The election, if we had put up a referendum on whether people want independence or continuous union with La République, we were sure that La République would recruit people and would make them vote. Okay? They will make as many people vote in that particular election as possible to prove that they want us to stay united. But in an election, to put in place an autonomous region of Southern Cameroon with its own interim leader, La République and other fraudsters have no interest in massive participation. They instead have an interest in discouraging participation, because massive participation shows that our people are massively behind independence. So they have no interest in loading up or in stacking the deck with respect to this election.
No, that is true, but that wasn't where I was directing the question, because, of course, they care less what election you conduct there. In fact, if they have their way, they will sabotage the whole thing. But I am talking about the inability to restrict who is voting and how many times they are voting. And of course, there are other problems like who is doing the collation or the monitoring of those results. Because if you have an election, there got to be a non-partisan committee that monitors that. And all along, it appears that Maurice is just the one on the table putting this together, and nobody else knows what the process is. And so at the end of the day, people question, what was the criteria you used in doing this? And then the thing becomes illegitimate.
I go back. Let me take your questions one at a time. One is, Maurice is not participating in this election and is doing it as a neutral body with no interest. And we set up from the very beginning, from the very moment that we articulated to our people at the end of last year, that we need not only to set an end date to all of this agitation that we have had for 55 years, we need to set an end date as the 1st of October. When we mobilize people around that date of the 1st of October, we also said this is what we need to do to get there. And those things included an election. Now, you're mentioning the fact that Maurice is alone. Maurice is alone because at this point, people have been, these other groups within SCACO have clearly indicated that they're opposed to the idea of an election. They're opposed to the reason they give us for being opposed to the idea of an election is that it has not been done in revolutions before. But that is not a good enough reason. It will be as if to tell a child that you cannot use a vacuum cleaner because my mother always used a broom. You should use a broom. The technology allows us today to do things that revolutions before us could not do. And so we are saying, come on and do it. Now, you said a moment ago that you could load up your phone and you could do stuff. Now, we have the nomination process ongoing right now. If you yourself, Pastor Chris, if you want now, go in there and nominate somebody, and then go back in and try to nominate another one. You will see what the system will tell you.
But again, what I'm saying is nobody knows that process you are talking about, and it is not only the nominating process. It also has to do with the voting process. What if I can vote in the actual election 10 times with different phone numbers by the same person?
Reverend Chris, let me tell you something. If today we still did not have independence in Southern Cameroon, luckily we already voted for independence. If we did not have independence in Southern Cameroon, and right now the United Nations wanted us to vote in an election, generally what will happen will be that they will go in and ask us to come and register and vote. The process will not establish who is a Southern Cameroonian, and you can expect that a lot of East Cameroonians will come and vote. That Mr. Biya will turn a number of his people into Southern Cameroonians. The situation where a country is going from colonization into independence is not a situation where you certify citizenship. You acknowledge by virtue of, if you are doing this, there's penalty of perjury for lying about it. You assume, as you assume, talking to me, that I'm a bona fide Southern Cameroonian, like I do for you.
Yeah.
We cannot, any one of our organizations cannot determine today that they are the ones who are going to grant Southern Cameroonian citizenship. They don't have the power to do it. So at this point, we are saying that the people who will want to vote, including especially in Cameroon, where voting can expose you to a lot of danger,
right.
The only people who want to vote will be people who support our cause. So, presuming that other people will want to go and vote several times is simply not true. Or presuming, as I've heard in a voicemail, that you could buy 10,000 phones and 10,000 cell numbers for the purposes of perpetrating that fraud, that is simply not practicable. It's not true. And and we are looking to send a clear message to the United Nations that our people in their massive numbers have done this. That is why the data that we are collecting is helping us identify and weed out people who want to vote 2 times. Because the data you will submit as a voter will be data that we are going to retain, even better than paper ballots. We are going to retain that data and be able to turn that data over to the United Nations and to anybody else. So whoever emerges from this election will be able to say that the million Southern Cameroonians gave me a mandate to bring their country to restoration. It is different from us continuing to give this story that Mr. Biya is propagating, that we are only a bunch of people, and that very many of us, including 6 groups that went into to this conclave, which are saying, let us find AK-47s, let us make war. If our group has people who are saying, let us go to war, the United Nations, which is set up to advance world peace and provide security, cannot support groups that are only propagating war. We have to step away from that and embrace the legal, diplomatic, peaceful methods that are available and fulfill the one condition that is laid out very clearly in a United Nations resolution about how we can separate from La République. La République will not organize the vote for us. The United Nations very clearly is unwilling to step in and support us with a vote because Cameroon first has to give them green light. So we, as the oppressed people, have to find a way of imposing on our people and imposing on the international community the outcome that we look for. Now, I'll talk to the issue of unity that has been celebrated a lot.
Yeah, before you get there, of course, this is part of it. So I really don't understand what is wrong with you thinking that, all right, let's all unite behind you, Julius. We may have our differences, but our destination is the same. This was done. Let us unite behind him and work out a program and agree on a program that he pursues, because if we all get united behind him, he represents us anywhere, at any forum, at any organization, whether elected or not elected. Don't you see that? You just take our agreement for that to happen. Because in this situation, we are talking about, I think we are talking about democracy. I don't think we Southern Cameroonians are talking about democracy now. It's a struggle. It's a revolution. And so to be talking about democracy and conducting elections in the midst of a struggle, it just doesn't, there's no wisdom in there. We need to get a route map like the one you have, which I believe they adopted. And I really think if they choose a leader that many people accept, we could all fall behind and come out with a program and say, hey, this is our program. This is what we want you to do. We will support you. You go ahead and do that. Whatever he does, we will support him. The international community will recognize it. Don't you see that?
So please.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, there was a war. There was a war going on in Yugoslavia when the people of Yugoslavia went out to vote to pick their leader. There was a war going on between Ethiopia and Eritrea when the people of Eritrea went out to pick their leader. There was a war going on in South Sudan when the people of South Sudan went out to pick their leader and determined for themselves that they want independence. Even in the middle of war, for a country to be recognized, you implement a vote. Even when there is no war, even when the people of South Africa were totally united around Nelson Mandela and everybody around the world knew that this was the leader of this nation, they needed a vote to move him to the position of president and give him the legitimacy that he finally enjoyed. We, at this stage, the only thing we need to do is to provide the legitimacy for our leader.
But you have to also understand the atmosphere. Those people were operating from within their borders. In this case, we are not allowed to operate in our own territory.
No, remember that the ANC fought plenty of its battles outside of their territory. And that the people of South Sudan, there were many South Sudanese, many Eritreans who were living abroad, like all of us today, who were in exile, who were funding this struggle from outside, who could never go back home, and who really lived at home only at the risk of being killed. 1 million Eritreans and Ethiopians were killed in that war. 1 million South Sudanese were killed in the 30-year war. So the situation for people breaking out of colonization into independence is never ideal. They were killing millions of Algerians when Algeria voted for independence. We have to find the shortest way to recognition for our country. And recognition calls on us to fulfill conditions that are set by the international community. In 1948, when the Balfour Declaration was made, creating the State of Israel, the State of Palestine was supposed to be created along the State of Israel. But because the people of Palestine indicated that the only way they will exist will be if they destroy Israel, until this day, and despite occupying their territory, despite having their own government, their own army, their own armed forces, they have still not gained recognition as a state. The people of Somaliland, who were ruled by Italy, when they broke out of Mogadishu, or Puntland, when they broke out of Mogadishu, to create their own independent state, they have been independent or autonomous for over 30 years now. They have not been recognized by anybody because the international standards to meet.
So are you saying that are you really saying that any leader recognizable has to be chosen through an election as it is illegitimate?
No, what I'm saying is that we need to meet an international standard set in a resolution that is known to all Southern Cameroonians. That resolution, what we are seeking to achieve with the Republic of Cameroon is separation. And Principle 7 and Principle 8 of United Nations Resolution 1541 is very clear about what will allow us to separate. It has to be the expression of the will of our people, not the expression of the will of their leaders. The expression of the will of our people.
Now, I understand that Julius Tabe has reached out to you to try to get you into the fold for consultations on how you can work together to build this struggle together. What is your response to his reaching out to you?
We have reached out mutually to each other. I say, I kept all channels open. I continued to reach out with my brother Dasang, even during the period when he was leader and when there were differences in how we pursue the struggle. And so with the election of the president of the governing council, he contacted me first with a text saying, we need to talk. I returned the text saying, most willingly. At the time that I was doing it, I noticed he was not online, so I said, my data is open at all times. Let's please talk. When I went through another day without the possibility for us to talk because we didn't catch up, I wrote back another longer text to say, look, I am available. I realized we couldn't get through, and I know you are busy, but I welcome the opportunity for us to talk. He returned my text saying, he will make time so that we can talk. I'm hoping that we can do so today. I know he's reaching out to a lot of people. He's inundated, so I totally understand that. And I say again, all of us, except those of us who are opposed to our independence, all of us who are working for this independence, we are only divided around how to get there. We are all united about the issue of restoration. And my hope is that in this process of reaching out with everyone, that we can find a way in which we can, as the organizations trying to shepherd this process, where we can, go beyond what our people are enjoying right now. Our people are enjoying the fact that we have gotten together as a united front, that we are united around the objective that we seek. But that unity around that objection that we seek is the same unity that the people of Palestine have demonstrated. But they have failed to meet the international standards set for them to transform from an authority into a state recognized by the international community. Our focus must be on how to make sure that we can fulfill the conditions that are needed for us to be recognized as an independent country. That is why we have been kind of narrowly focused on trying to build in the elements of legitimacy and the elements that the international community, in our opinion, is looking for. Now, there may be other ways of doing it. There may be delayed ways of doing it. There may be a calendar that is rolled out that says, okay, we no longer do the 1st of October, we do another date. Maybe, and to the extent that all the channels are open, we are talking with everyone in the hope that we can nail down some workable thing. And I believe that once that engagement happens, I'll be as open, and Maurice will be as open as possible, will be as welcoming as possible to everything that other people say. Now, again, the issue here is not, and I've heard it, the issue here is not about Maurice, laying out something that it's not something that we suddenly pull out of our back pocket, because this is what Maurice was created for. This is what we rolled out the roadmap for. This is why we rallied everyone around the 1st of October for. And we said this is what we were going to do. When when we integrated Skakuf said we will take the roadmap. We said, great, you implement it. And Maurice said, okay, from this moment that Sakuf is taking over the roadmap, we are not the umbrella. We will accept an assignment within this movement that allows us to continue to support the way forward. And at that meeting where we did that, we had agreed that part of the process will be in May, we'll put together this election. So, and I continue to explain even at that meeting that, we are unlike the other groups. So if Morris exists, it is only to implement a roadmap that we have articulated. And if that roadmap is in conflict with what Sakuf is doing, that's why we thought, okay, one big group, could you lead this whole process? And that's why we said, look, take the roadmap, take it, run with it. Let's do what we want to do together.
Now, when you talk about Morris carrying out this project, now I'm sure you read the comments that people put out there in the social media against your resignation from Sakuf and the announcement to conduct this election, and even some of the branches of Morris have distanced themselves from what you are trying to do. And the question out there is, who is really Morris? It appears that it is Bo Herbert and maybe 3, 4, 5 others doing all this thing. Who is doing this? Who is organizing this with you? Because I know that most of your executive committee members withdrew because of your resistance to listen to the council against this particular election thing. So who is really doing this with you?
Well, that's not true. And you keep saying who is doing this with you, continuing to run around the idea that Bo Herbert is doing this alone.
Yeah, I mean, don't you read a comment on social media from the time you announced the elections?
You ask me a question, or you're not going to let me answer it. I mean, you can hold your breath and ask me the next one. I will answer. I'm here on the phone, not running away.
No, I understand. I was just trying to reflect what I read on social media.
You did not reflect. You owned what was read on social media. You stated it as a fact. You stated it as a fact that I was doing this, who was doing that, members of my steering committee have resigned because I would not listen to their counsel. That is absolutely inaccurate, and that's absolutely false. But that is what our people do. This is the intolerance that exists in this movement right now, which consists of, if you don't drink, smoke, and sleep with Sakuf, you are the devil. You are born of Paul-Biya. You are taking La Republique's money. You are a traitor to this struggle. That is not true. This is intolerance. I say again, if Sakuf is 99.99% of our people, if they are 99.99% of our people, they 0.01% still have a right to say what they think. If we are going to a country that will have freedom and dignity and respect of freedom of expression for everyone, that group of people don't have to be the majority to speak up. So I own it that we are a small minority. In fact, they have called us in Britain the stupid minority. I accept it. I think it's a great Christian name for us. But that stupid minority should have a right to say what they think, and all of us, as Southern Cameroonians, if we truly believe in freedom, we should uphold the right of that stupid minority to speak up. Now, the 99.99% of the intelligent majority should absolutely demonstrate to us, demonstrate to everybody in this election that they can absolutely wallop any kind of opposition and that we can unify behind a leader. If they do that, I bet you, my brother, our people are going to be in heaven. Our people are going to be able to speak with their head high. They are going to be able to go everywhere around the world because they will have documentation to show that we are not the minority extremists that Mr. Pierre is saying, that we are not a few people in the diaspora, that our people at home are with us on this. If we do this, we will take our struggle forward. Now, obviously, because there are these talks going on, and I cannot wait to speak with Zeko, Julius, I don't know what the future promises. I'm not the oracle, and I don't know what the leadership of Julius will produce for our people. I know he's a great man. I've seen him. I was at the last conclave with him. We had a great exchange. I have only nice things to say about him. So I'm only hoping that we can build that team and we can work together. I hate that the whole thing then gets turned around either Bo, Herbert, or Morris. Yeah.
But don't you understand the sentiments of the people when they see you trying to organize an election, when it is the general opinion that they already have a leader, and then you are organizing an election to get another leader emerge? Then you have two leaders out there causing division, separation amongst the people. Don't you see where the people are coming from, the sentiments, where they're coming from?
The supposition that there will be two leaders is linked to, it has to be linked to the fact that people are uncertain that they will get a majority vote coming out. Now, only people who are concerned about holding on to power or concerned that they could lose the majority position would be worried about an election. At Morris, we believe that our people have a right to determine who their leader is, even if it's in the middle of a war. That you want to determine who that leader is. If you have a chance to vote, you should vote. Now, people imagined that there was no possibility to organize this election. I believe that they are surprised that the possibility is there and that the technology allows us to do it. And I say, the best thing is there is therefore a majority that is aligned within Sakov. Please, Sakov, mobilize the majority. Let them line up behind the leader that has been elected or that has been designated as a candidate for Sakov. Let them win this election. Let them put this legitimacy behind. But let us demonstrate to the world that our people are behind it. There is not only the leaders that met in a conclave. There are two things. The Catholic Church has instituted the conclave as a place where the cardinals go and choose a new pope. Okay, and they demonstrate to us by the white smoke that we have found a pope.
Yeah.
No country has adopted that system. For sticking together in a little conclave, and coming out of it with white smoke and saying this is the person that we have found. No. All countries are built around a leader who has been elected. We need absolutely, because we want everybody to recognize us and respect us as a country, we need to precipitate this to a point where we have our elected leader and to the point where our march to Boya on the 1st of October is not being disturbed by people who are saying that only a few people met in a hotel. And I can tell you that is what the regime will be.
But the public argument will be that the few people that met in the hotel are more than the membership of Boris that is holding this election.
Oh yeah, but again, you're going back to the idea that the tyranny of majority denies the right of the tyranny of the majority denies the right of the minority. The minorities still have a right to say what they say, and our people can demonstrate that only a minority of people believe in what we are doing. But to say just shut up. Meanwhile, everybody knew from the word go. Tell me again. Let's talk about the majority. So we go to the conclave, the second conclave. We all agree amongst ourselves, leaders, and we put it in paragraph 1 that all of us are going to elect a leader in May. What happened? Who changed that? Was that the majority of the leaders that sat at that conclave, or was there a conclave in between? And who were the people who decided that? Now, we just had a conclave right now, and you had 6 branches of Skakov, Canada, Skakov USA, Skakov Europe, Skakov Houston, voting at that place and signing the document. This is what they call stacking the deck against other people. That in itself is rigging the vote. We really have to be careful. Even if it is a minority, that minority has a right to express their views. I understand, and I've heard it, if you do it, you are an enemy in the house. But that is the language that the colonizer has taught us, and I'm amazed that people are picking it up. In the new Southern Cameroon, there will have to be an opposition. There will have to be people who don't agree with the leader. We must show tolerance towards those people. There will be people who don't agree with the policies of the day. We must show tolerance towards those people, and we must demonstrate, again, using the democratic system that exists, which are elections, that these people are a minority.
So when you elect a leader on the 23rd, would this leader be the leader of Maurice or the leader of Southern Cameroon?
The election says election of the interim prime minister of Southern Cameroon. When you look at the data in a few days' time with respect to even nomination, who is going in and nominating, you will be surprised by how popular the idea is of us finding a leader, that is legitimate.
So almost 1 week to the day of election. Why can't the electorate know who is standing for the election?
Because, as I told you at the top of this discussion, I don't know whether you are recording me, but as I told you at the top of this interview or discussion, we at Maurice, in spite of adopting a revised roadmap, decided to hold back in the hope that, the reaching out, trying to reach an agreement, that this will happen. It did not happen. Okay, and then they came out with a decision telling us that the president of the governing council of Kakuf has been elected. Now, that governing council of Kakuf, they're telling me now, is it transformed into the governing council of Southern Cameroon? If it was the governing council of Southern Cameroon, they should have just told us from the word go that this is the governing council of Southern Cameroon and Kakuf has transformed into the government, which is what I feared from the very beginning, which is what led me to resign in the first place.